What's up, guys? Coach Brian here. This episode is brought to you by Kolat.com. That's KOLAT.com, which is hosted by the one and only wrestling legend, Kerry Kolat himself. Hit the link below to get a massive discount on your subscription to this incredible instructional website. You want to improve your grappling? Level up today and sign up. Now on with the show. Level Up Grappling Podcast. We are back and ready to rock your socks off. So, Adam and I were thinking about a topic that we feel is important as coaches. And the title of this episode is called Enjoy Being a Student. So, this is a very loaded topic. And we want to get into this and really kind of do a deep dive, not only in terms of what we mean literally, but also figuratively, metaphorically, whatever you want to say. You have to understand the ins and outs of being a student, because what I think we've seen, and we've talked about this a lot, is people are trying to rush to be experts and rush to be black belts. And you're missing the point. You're really, really missing the point. So let's get into it like this. You know, when you're a coach, your focus is on your students. And that's what your priority is. So the self-centeredness, so to speak, of your own development kind of takes a back seat to how you are developing others. And so a lot of times students don't realize what that sacrifice is, because I honestly love being a student. And something I've mentioned on the show before, to me, the benefits of being a black belt isn't that I'm dangling that over people saying I'm better than you. It's not that at all. It's just, it's aged my perspective in terms of how to learn and what I am learning and what I see and how I process that information. And I want to give you guys some shortcuts today in terms of how to do that as a student. And it's definitely not by collecting as many BJJ Fanatics videos as you can. So interestingly, over the last week or so, Adam and I both in our respective locations had the opportunity to sit back and be a student. Again, going to different seminars and stuff. And I think we both got a lot of value out of what we did. So Adam, I'll let you kick it off in terms of what you can give your input in terms of taking a brain break from being the coach and spending a few hours on the mat being the student again. How, as a reflection, how was that for you, and what value do you see in that?
Dude, it's the ultimate reason that we got into martial arts is to learn. Yeah, I mean, we all teach as part of the journey of learning. I think I'm a firm believer in I have a lot of my sort of intermediate guys teach beginner stuff. The more you teach it, the better you learn it. But in the same breath, the more you teach it, the better you learn it, the less you add to your inventory. That's what happens. Yeah, as you said, the coach's self-development stops. It becomes about his students. Well, that's what it does for me. Yeah, my development stops. I don't get the opportunity to go and train with my professors or my coaches or people that I consider better than me, more knowledgeable than me, somebody I want to learn off, whatever sense that is. I rarely get the opportunity because I'm in a gym making sure that my guys that are there to learn off me are learning correctly, being taught all the right skills and all the right techniques. And etc., conditioned enough, preparing for competitions in the right way, dropping weight correctly, all the things that go along with being a coach. And anybody who coaches will understand that. And for that matter, anybody who's a student at a club will understand everything the coach does if they bother to pay attention. But as you said, as students, they probably need to understand that sacrifice because we do it gladly because we are coaches. That's what we want to do. We do it because we enjoy it. But I think a lot of students don't understand that the coach does put a lot of stuff. It's like being a parent. Honestly, it is. It sounds, and it's not meant to be minimizing or derogatory to the students at all. But when you assume the realm of a coach, you become like a parent. Everything that you used to do stops in order to raise the children. Yeah, you get the occasional outing, where there's a babysitter and you get the occasional outing. But the majority of what you do is what you termed your martial life, your martial arts life stops. And it all becomes about teaching your students, which is great. That's what we're there to do. But the joy, I think that I find in being a student again is something special. It takes me back to why I started learning martial arts. I wanted to learn how to do it. Yeah, that's what it was. We all signed up because we wanted to learn it. And I think what happens when you reach a certain level, and I'll use the belt system. I think part of the problem for me with people not enjoying being a student and trying to rush is the belt system. Yeah, in wrestling where there's no belt system, nobody's trying to get a black belt because it doesn't exist. Everybody's just trying to be a better wrestler. Yeah, and so whilst we can all sit around and say, forget the belts, just enjoy the journey. Anytime there's carrot dangling that has some sort of attachment of prestige and stuff like that, people are going to chase it. The problem with chasing something is that once you get it, your perspective changes. And I find it a lot. Yeah, you become a black belt. And black belt is really, if you think about it, and it's black belt means that you know the foundation now. Yep, the foundation's down, you can start exploring the art. So what happens to a lot of black belts is we get our foundation, then we stop exploring and just start teaching that foundation again. So it's this endless cycle of foundation, with no progress for us. So when I get the opportunity to push that little bit of foundation further out, push that little bit of knowledge skill set further out, I'm all over it. I love it. I love it. Like the I don't know, the inquiring mind of a white belt sort of thing, where you're seeing something for the first time or seeing something for the thousandth time of a different interpretation of a technique you've seen a million times, but somebody does it, their nuances, the way they make it work for their body type, or something they've discovered over the last 30, 40 years of training that you haven't thought of. It makes you go, wow, that's something really interesting. I would never have thought of that. It's really interesting that you went down that road. Not only do I want to learn the technique, but I also want to know how you went down that road. How did you even think to go down there? That's what intrigues me. It's not so much about going, you're going to show me a technique that I've never seen before. Because frankly, and I mean, I've said this on the podcast before, when it comes to jiu-jitsu and stuff, or wrestling for that matter, everything that you do in the first 2 or 3 years of training, you would have probably seen it all, and you just get better at it over the next 20 years. Yeah, everything you do at blue belt, that's what you do at black belt. You just do it better. Yeah, that's my belief. Everything you're going to have at black belt, you would have already learned at blue belt by blue belt. It's just that you'll do it so much better. So I'm big on the inquiring mind for me. It's not saying, yeah, the skill set's great and it's good to see people's take on techniques and that. But I think what it is for me, if you do an armbar, a straight fall away armbar that we all do in white belt jiu-jitsu, but you do it with a certain angle that you cut, a certain entry that I've never seen, a certain foot position where you crank it a certain way that I've never thought of. Not only do I want to learn how you cranked it, but I also want to learn the thought train that you went down to make you do that. Do you get what I mean? Yeah, I want to know how your brain. I want to know what the experiment, the laboratory was going on when you go. I'm going to just go this way and see what happens. Yeah, because a lot of the time that's where brilliance comes from. Yeah, there's a fine line between brilliance and madness. That's my
Absolutely.
thought. It's for me. It's just that inquiring mind more than anything. I just love that white belt attitude of going, wow, 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 everything's wow, you know. And the littlest things become wow moments when you haven't been a student for a long time. Or, and I don't want to say you haven't been a student because you're always a student. How can I put it? When you don't have the opportunity to literally drive into that realm of a student, have somebody else teach you. And as a coach, that's what happens. You lose the opportunity to take advantage of someone teaching you because you don't usually get the opportunity. So when you do take advantage,
So the seminar you recently went to was a gi seminar. So
yeah,
what takeaways can you share with us with regards to what you saw at this particular gi seminar? Was there anything different that you saw? What was the common thread? What can you share with us?
I can share the fact that I'm far better without a gi than I am with one. I can share that fact. um, but look, in all seriousness, just different takes, different ideas. I went to a Lewis Tanuri seminar. I'm part of his team, Tanuri Academy team. Dan Higgins, who we've had on the show, is my immediate BJJ coach. Lewis Tanuri's his. So we're in that team, yeah, where we share that
Mhm.
affiliation, that same team. So to have Lewis come out was great. I mean, Lewis is a 6th degree jiu-jitsu black belt from Brazil. Um, he lived out here, fought MMA. He was our XFC heavyweight champion, etc., etc. Big career, great jiu-jitsu hero, really, really good jiu-jitsu. Was a national judo champion in Brazil too, I believe. I know that he's a judo black belt for sure, but I believe he was a national champion in Brazil. So really well-rounded skill set, very, very knowledgeable man on Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And so for me to go there was something different because he was showing stuff, a lot of using the jacket for techniques. Yeah, a lot of like not so much of the lapel grips, but pulling the jacket out from the belt and wrapping arms and wrapping heads with the
Okay.
jacket. A lot of that stuff, which I haven't done a lot of at all.
Mm.
Yeah, not a lot at all. So it was really interesting to me to see all that sort of stuff. And I could see exactly how it worked. Yeah, and it wasn't just, it was interesting because I've seen the whole pull the jacket out and choke them with it. Yeah, because it's in judo as well. Yeah, that woman got it banned. I can't remember the
Yeah.
Israeli girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't remember her name, but she got it banned. That's the same sort of stuff. I've seen that sort of the choking, but he was using it as a lasso, a base for a lasso guard, and all sorts of stuff. It was really cool. It was really good shit, like stuff that I've never really seen before. So it was interesting to see. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
I learned a whole bunch of new stuff, a whole sort of new system really by using the jacket in a different way.
Yeah. I used to, especially when I was a purple belt, I used to like using the jacket a lot, wrap people up and do all that kind of stuff. What I noticed over time is they've a lot of people they use different cuts now for the jackets. So they made the the jackets tighter. So they didn't have like a wider base, so they're tighter. So it's harder if you use somebody else's
Yeah.
jacket, it's harder in all this. So I was the type of person like I never wanted a tuxedo cut like tight jacket because I was fine using it and also just from judo. So I didn't mind a wide jacket. And honestly, I would say most of the gis that I have and that I use are definitely oversized in the sense that they're baggier, they're wider and stuff. And I could care less because I've never been reliant on like your average like lapel, collar, sleeve grips, stuff like that. But I like using it. I like it being bigger because I like using it as a weapon if I choose to. Right. And it's very fun. You can really get creative with that, which can be really enjoyable. So I went to the CSW camp over the weekend. So twice a year, Sensei Eric Paulson has this CSW camp. So a lot of people come from all over the world to it. And I go twice a year to this thing. And the way I look at it is I get 6 days a year to really be a student. And I love it. I really love it. So basically, the way he has it set up is it's usually about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours a day for 3 days. And there's a variety of instructors, which is so cool. So, like for us, day one was Sensei Eric. We just did Shudo for the entire day. Now, the thing with Shudo, which we've kind of talked about in a previous episode, is it's very rapid fire with you're always chaining techniques together. And if you don't have your brain firing on all cylinders, you're not going to remember this stuff. So for me, I just kind of slow it down and try and pick up the concepts of what are we chaining together and then figure out how to do it and then just kind of go from there. And I like working very slowly, uh, just to understand how am I positioning this and what is the point of the attack? Like, what are they doing? I mean, my body was not happy with me at the end of Friday. Fortunately, there was a chiropractor who comes from, I have to give him a shout out. His name is Dr. Jim Bentley. I want to say he's from Oregon, and he comes down and he works on everybody free of charge. So anybody who's there for the weekend who wants an adjustment or wants something done, he does it. And my neck was really out because I have 3 herniated discs, anyways, in my neck. And within 10 minutes, I felt better than I have in a long time. So he did an amazing job. So you guys can look him up online, Dr. Jim Bentley. He's fantastic. And I think he does like these seminars, some healing seminars and stuff, but you have to go up there to Oregon to see it. But it was great. And so it just always puts me in awe when and I've been training with Sensei Eric for over 20 years. Um, I'm never not in awe of the amount of knowledge this guy has. And he is a human Rolodex of information, and not just of techniques, but of history. So when he sits there and he's telling us stories about this and connecting to this was being done in Japan and it didn't come to the United States, this particular technique, or something didn't come to the US until 10 years later. And he literally will give you the history of how it all happened. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And I love just sitting there and listening and watching. And it's very, very inspirational. Obviously, for me, I definitely get tired. I did get, I did get called out Friday afternoon because by 3:30, if anybody knows about me, usually 3:30 is my nap time. It literally is. So 3:30 comes around, I'm starting to fade a little bit, and we're sitting there. Everybody's sitting there on the mat. There's like 100 people on the mat. And of course, he calls me out and yells at me in front of everybody. Brian, you're falling asleep. It's nap time. He's like, wake up. I was like, okay, wake up. Sorry, Sensei. So, uh, yeah. So I had to like light a little bit of extra fire under my ass for that last hour because I was exhausted. I really was. And one thing that I do recognize when I have my student hat on, I take it very, very seriously. And what I mean by this, and I want you guys all to understand, because I think you guys, I don't want to say the word spoiled, but you're trained incorrectly in the sense that let's hurry up and get through the techniques so we can roll. No, you need to take as much time sitting and learning and practicing the techniques as you can. Don't try and just rush through techniques so you can roll. And that is one of the biggest flaws. You're not going to be a student that way, because what that's doing is, number one, it's diminishing the expertise of the instructor you're listening to. Okay. And I think it's very disrespectful Don't be like, can we just hurry up so we can roll? Take the time, ask questions, ask to see the technique as many times as you can because you're always going to miss something. That's why I always say, I don't care if I've seen a technique 1,000 times, show it to me again. Because as I get older and the more time I spent, I'm at the point in my life now where I've been a black belt longer than any other belt, right? I've put so much time that that's the longest belt I've been at. So I want to see it again. I want to see it again. I want to see it again. Because as an example, if it's a stand up technique, I have to look at everything. So here's how I would break down a stand up technique when I'm watching somebody demonstrate a technique. I'm looking at their head positioning. I'm looking at their hand connection, right? I'm looking at their chest connection if there is one. I'm looking at their hip rotation, and then I'm looking at their foot positioning. And I'm trying to break each one of those down in terms of how they're moving independently and then how they're moving together. And that takes a lot of time. And I have to see something many times to see all that. And then, me personally, I'm always going to ask the instructor, hey, can you demonstrate it on me? Can I feel it? Because if you want to know something that's going to fast track you to your success in learning a technique, it's just not by watching and hearing, but by feeling. So watch, hear, and feel. If you have the opportunity to feel it from somebody that knows what they're doing and has done it correctly, and let's say they get the check mark gold star from the instructor, have them do it to you. And if you're fortunate enough to have the instructor do it to you, take the opportunity because that's going to make you better because then you'll know exactly what it's supposed to feel like and just do it and repeat it and do it over and over and over again. So that was my key takeaway from Sensei Eric in his section. The next day we had Grandmaster Hegan in the morning, which was always amazing because regardless of how many years I've trained with Hegan, I'm always learning something new. And I'm watching every little thing that he does. And funny enough, at one point, um, I'm doing my drills with the guy I'm doing my drills with, who happened to be one of my students. And there was a couple guys next to us. One was a brown belt and a blue belt. And Sensei Eric had walked over and he's like, Brian, get up. I'm like, what? He's like, watch them, stay on top of them. And he's like, hey guys, this is Brian. He's going to be working through all your stuff with you. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So, um, obviously I was there to be a student, which I wanted to do. But when you have 100 people on the mat and Hegan's on one side and Sensei Eric's on another side, and they both can't be walking around at every place. So he grabs me and says, you're over here in this corner. Watch these guys over here. Okay. Then it takes time. Okay. You have to sit down, show them the technique. And then a lot of it also, just because like I said, I've spent so much time with Hegan over the years. I I know how to translate his technique into verbalizing the intent because sometimes when there's a language barrier with instructors or they're so masterful at what they do, like a Hegan, um, they're not explaining every little detail because they're so far beyond on another level, right? That for them, what's natural that you should just know and they're almost taking for granted their level of mastery that you have to break it down and go, here's what Hegan means by this. Here's what you should be doing. This is what you should be looking for. Here's what this is going to feel like. And this is what he actually does because he's done it to me and he almost broke my hip one time doing this, that kind of thing. Right. So Hegan's brilliance is sometimes, I think, overlooked because people are not meditating and really asking and feeling what it is because a lot of people don't want to feel what Hegan's doing. Number one, I think he doesn't have time to put the technique on everybody. Um, but number two, I think people are afraid. But I always say if you have the opportunity to just ask Keegan Machado to do the technique to you, do it. It'll change your life. if you have the opportunity to train with him and go to one of his seminars, it has to be done. And one of the most important things people need to understand about Higan Machado is Higan was really one of the first guys of that generation that hybridized his grappling. He went after everything: judo, sambo, freestyle, Greco. He did it all. And he got that from Holmes Gracie, who unfortunately passed away in, I think, 82. But Higan was the one that carried on that, as Adam had said, that inquisitiveness. Higan never stopped being a student. And as a result, Higan's style of jiu-jitsu is not like your standard sport jiu-jitsu. It's shit that will kill you, crush you and kill you, because it's a mix. His lacing techniques are freestyle wrestling. How he hooks things, it's very wrestling based. A lot of his stuff, it's so hybridized, and he was open-minded to do it, and that was something that created a big rift between him and the Gracie family, his cousins, his relatives, 30 years ago, just so you guys know. The next session we had was with the Rotolo brothers, Cade and Ty Rotolo. That was primarily leg lock defense seminar, which was excellent. And they broke down, the most important thing I can tell you from that process is they broke down how, while they were not leg lock specialists, especially growing up, how they determined how to learn leg lock defense and leg lock offense so that they couldn't be submitted with leg locks, and what their process was. They are very blessed that, number one, they were homeschooled. Number two, they're twins. So they always had a training partner 24/7. And, I got to speak with their dad. Their dad's always with them. I got to speak with their dad a little bit afterwards. And, I had to thank him for producing such gentlemanly children. If it's one thing I can say about the Rotolos, not only are they incredibly talented, and I love watching them, and they are open-minded, and they always mix styles together. What they call their jujitsu, so much of it is wrestling, so much of it is judo, so much of it is catch wrestling that they put into what we blanketly call jujitsu. It's just submission grappling, but they don't hide under a rock. These kids want to learn everything, but they are some of the kindest and most respectful young men I have met in a long time. And that comes directly from their parents. Their parents, and I've met the mom before as well, very nice lady. But their dad, and I told him, I go, you raised your boys right. I go, if one thing that you did, regardless of how amazing, brilliant they are at their grappling, I go, they're gentlemen. They're respectful gentlemen. And I go, and hats off to you for raising them right. And I think he really appreciated that, because you don't see that very often. But they are so kind and so talented. It's definitely, if you have an opportunity to take a seminar with the Rotolos, do it, because they don't show wacky shit that you won't be able to do. Most of the stuff anybody can do. And they break it down in a very simple way, which I really enjoy. I want to see stuff that I can do. I'd say 90% of the stuff I was able to do, like some of their flying overhead rolling darces and stuff, I wouldn't do in a million years. But I enjoy watching it, and I appreciate the talent and the skill. But just wonderful kids. And I really enjoy learning. And I'm not the type of person to go like, I've been doing jujitsu longer than they've been alive, so why should I listen to them? Absolutely not. I love to listen and to learn. I really do. And they are, I can't say enough about not only how kind they are, but how smart they are. And I think part of it is because they're twins and they spend so much time together. Not only do they finish each other's sentences, but they really take that introspective approach to grappling and breaking things down. Why does something work? Why does something not work? And that's how they teach it. They don't just teach a move and say, okay, go. They say, here's why we thought about this. Here's why we think this will work for you. And this is important. Uh, I think it's very, very important as a student to be asking those questions, right? Not the jackass question of what if a guy does this? No, not that. Can you tell me your thought process in terms of how you came to this conclusion? Can you educate me more in terms of how this is valuable to me? These are the questions you need to have. Be a serious student. Don't be the jackass that
That's
says, well, what if they do this, right? You know how that is.
mhm. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. For me, the whole thing is about not only do I want to see your version of the technique, I want to know the thought train that got you there. That's what it's about for me. It's that inquiring mind, not just mine wanting to inquire about how you work it, but I want to know about your inquiring mind that sent you down that path where you worked this out. Because this is cool shit. Shane, talk to me about how you thought about that. What got you there? Because it helps. All this sort of stuff, if you see someone who does something really well in a way that you've never seen it done before, even though it's a technique that's very common, as like I said, like a fall away armbar, standard white belt armbar, yet you see someone of an extremely high level do it in a way that you've never seen it before, it makes you reappreciate that technique. It gives you that technique like it's the first coming. You've never seen it before. It's like wow, And then that's what I want to know. How did you make something that was so common, so normal, so white belty, for want of a better term? It is one of the first submissions that we learn is a fall away armbar from the top position. It's one of the first techniques we learn. You do it in a way that makes me go, holy shit, that's pretty cool. I want to know what got you there. If you can make me go, holy shit, that's pretty cool for a technique that I learned at white belt 20 something years ago and have used countless hundreds of thousands of times, drilled and done and rolled with, competed with, and all that sort of stuff. And you can show me something where I go, holy shit, never thought of that. I want to know how you did. That's part of the inquiring mind. That's what I'm talking about. It's not just my inquiring mind. I want to know how you did it. I want to know how you thought to do it. Yeah, what thought train were you on that you pulled apart this technique and went, I know what will make this work better for me. That shit interests me. Big time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that that is a missing question path with a lot of students. Um, because I don't think there's enough opportunity for people to sit down in class or practice, whatever you want to call it, and just chat about it. I think there's a lot that goes into the education process. And that's why, I really appreciate these guys that are able to tell these stories and walk you through the thought process. It's like invaluable. It really is.
Absolutely,
So
it
that's a
is.
major takeaway. Yeah.
But I also think that part of the culture that we have now is people aren't interested in that story. Just show me the technique so I can make it work on someone and tap it. That's the inquiring mind that asks you to go, what was your thought train behind doing that? What went wrong with that technique that you felt that you needed to change it for your body type or your entry or whatever it is, whatever the situation that caused you to modify something to work better for you, for me, for half the people, not for the other half. But what was it that went wrong that you kept finding going wrong that you felt you needed to change it? What process did you go through in order to successfully change it and make it effective? How often did you drill it on different scenarios? Did you pressure test it from bad positions? Did you just live train and just see what happened? Did you bounce it around like a laboratory experiment or did you just go with it? All of these things, that's what I want to know. The rest of the culture in the modern day sort of grappling scene seems to be like, I don't care about all of that. Just show me how to make it work so I can tap everybody with it. And that's where we're losing the inquiring mind. That's where we lose, people confuse being a student, yeah, with being a parrot. Yeah, a student now is very, the concept of being a student is being able to parrot every technique that my instructor does exactly how he does it. No questioning mind, no inquiring, no deeper thought as to, oh, I wonder why he does it like that. I wonder why that person does it that way and he does it that way. What's that underlying difference that makes that work for him, but that work for him? And what will work for me? Which one works better? Do either work better? Or is there somewhere in the middle that I need to modify things and change it that works better for me? Which then I can pass on to students. I can pass all three versions on them, plus the
Mhm.
original fourth version. So now you have four versions of an armbar rather than one. And not only have I learnt four versions of an armbar, but I've learnt also all the concepts behind an armbar: angles, mechanics, pressure. That's what creates knowledgeable practitioners. Yeah, having an inquiring mind to push further than parroting what's shown in the gym. If I show you how to do an armbar, and I don't know, I've got super long legs and I can pull it from anywhere, and I don't even really need to pinch my knees or anything like that. I can just grab it and bang, it's on. And then you come along with super short legs and you can't. You just sort of, a lot of the time, you'll throw that one away and go, oh, that's no good. But when Gordon Ryan does it on BJJ Fanatics because he's changed the angle or he's moved it in, that's it. I'll just watch the BJJ Fanatics, bang, I'm done, I'm good, I've got an armbar. You don't even, most people don't even care what the difference is and why this one works and that one doesn't. I want to know why. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't just dive down to the bottom of the ocean of techniques and hit the seafloor and go, oh great, that's it. No. Once I get to the bottom of all these techniques, then I pull out the jackhammer and start hitting the. I want to go deeper. What else is under there?
Hmm.
That's just how my brain in martial arts works. It doesn't work like that in anything else. In everything else, I'm pretty duh, you know. Like, that's why I have an amazing, wonderful, intelligent wife who takes care of everything else for me. Otherwise, I'd probably starve to death and be homeless. But I'd have great technique in grappling because the only way my brain works is in that grappling sense. I want to know more. Why? And I think that phrase in itself, yeah, why, would help so many grapplers. Yeah, if they just ask the question constantly, why? Hagen's done this and it really fucking hurt compared to how the other guy did it. Why? Paulson's pulled a submission here I've never seen before and it worked. It looks stupid, but it worked. Why? Yeah, the Rotolos can defend all these different leg locks with a simple core principle and it works. Why? Yeah, Brian can ride everybody out and they can't get up. Why? And I'm going to say, it's not because the Rotolos have steel legs who can't be tapped. I'm not going to say it's because Hagen Machado is got rocks in his gi jacket that makes the pressure so much more, you know. I'm not going to say that Eric Paulson is go gadget arms, you know, and can pull submissions just by extending his arms beyond what normal. And I'm not going to say you're a Mark Schultz wrestler who can just ride out anybody anyway. No, I'm going to say there's reasons that everything that we do work for us, and I want to know why. It's great. Yep, you show me a ride. I can ride with the best of them, probably better than most. Great. But I still want to know why yours works. I can leg lock with the best of them. I'm a Sambo master of sport. We invented the shit. I still want to know why the Rotolos can defend against 99% of leg locks. Why? I'm a wrestler. Base. I can put pressure on people, believe me. When I hold someone down, they stay down. But I want to know why he can generate so much more force. Why? I don't just go, oh, it's Hegan, and that's enough. That's not enough for me. I want to know why. That's the inquiring mind. And as a coach, not just as an athlete, or as a student, I should say, my athlete days are well over. As a student, I should say, I want to know why. But as a coach, On the other flip side of that, I want to know why, so that I am more educated for my own students when they ask me why. It all boils down to an inquiring mind and wanting to know more. I think as coaches, sometimes because we don't have that student, the availability of being a student regularly, sometimes we can lose that inquiring mind. That's what I think happens. We lose the ability to inquire anymore. That's
I
my
think,
thoughts.
no, I agree with you 100%. And I think one of the things that happens as people progress, their ego takes over and they go, well, I already know that. No, you actually don't. There's always going to be nuances and perspectives that you haven't seen or heard. So that's one of the things.
Mm-hmm.
Or, somebody gets to black belt and then they go, oh, I've already made it to the top. I already know everything. Or I'm already saturated with information. I don't need to see anything else. Instead of looking at everything from a perspective, like you're saying, why? So you can be introspective about that particular process or position or technique and go, can I add this to the arsenal? How can I make it better? Let me consider this person's perspective in terms of why it's been successful for them. And can I make it successful for me? There's there's a lot to that. And I think that that's the way you get better. Like I always say, the black belt for me, all it means is it's enabled me to have a broader perspective and know how to ask the right questions as a student. I don't think I've mastered anything. And if I do, then it's my time to stop and put it away because I'm not taking it seriously. And I'm making a mockery of the art, whatever that art is. Because you should always be learning. A master never gives up on his drills, his inquiry. It's a never-ending process. And speaking of a never-ending process, the other coach we had over the weekend was a wrestling coach by the name of Heath Sims, stud Greco-Roman wrestler. He was actually Randy Couture and Dan Henderson's wrestling coach while they were competing in MMA. And he recently moved back to Southern California. And I spoke to him after his session. I said, I'd really like to get together with you and brainstorm and work on some things with you. He was excellent. And his stuff was simple and effective. And he and I had a long conversation about that, where he was just like, how do I make people, he's like, my process nowadays is how do I make non-wrestlers effective at wrestling? And so a lot of the stuff we were doing were like these Greco entries, which were great. And his positioning, his pivoting, there was just so much to it that was so excellent. Um, it was a little, I guess, comical to me that people were just trying to run through it and just get through it really fast so they can get on to the next thing and go sit on their asses again. Uh, but to me, I took it very seriously. I kept pulling him aside, asking him questions. And like I said, after I spent about 20 minutes with him after the seminar, inquiring further about, just like you were saying, Adam, about his thought process in terms of what he showed that day. Why did you show this? Why do you value this over other things? Walk me through that process, your thought process. What do you think about this? Is this effective? Is this potentially something, And I just started going from there. And I was just like, are you open to having me come down to see you every once in a while so I can do some private training with you? He said, absolutely. He's like, I'll do it. So I'm very excited about that. This guy, Heath Sims, was amazing, really, truly amazing. And he would refer back to, which is really cool, XYZ fight when Randy Couture did this to somebody or Dan Henderson did this to somebody. Here's what the thought process was behind why we practiced this particular technique, how we got them down, how it was effective to get the punches, to get the finish or the fight, or how to keep somebody on the ground. Which, to your point, Adam, it's exactly that's the type of instructor you want to hear, that they're giving you the whys before you even get to ask the why. But the flip side of that is you have to be the student that's willing to take that in and process that information and understand
That's
how valuable and generous that is.
that's the that's the point there. Yeah, because you'll see in a room full of 100 people, whilst he's explaining the thought process and what was going on, in their head and why they're transitioning to this, why they're using this instead of this, and while he's going through all that, most people are just sitting there looking at the walls. Yeah, well, let's hurry up so I can do the technique. So I just want to chuck someone around and then we can get to the next thing. People ignore it. Yeah, they're polite. They sit there, they stand there and listen to it, I guess, or pretend to listen to it politely,
And
but
what
they
was
absorb nothing,
interesting is he was showing a particular grip.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it makes it very hard. And that's where they're losing that inquiring mind. They don't care about the explanation. Just show me the technique. I just want to parrot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's going to be the downfall
And
of grappling, I think, to an extent. There'll be no innovation. People just parrot.
mhm, I noticed when he was showing a particular hand grip, like a particular entry to the hand grip and how he shifted the grip. When I was looking around, I'd say more than 90% of the people were not transitioning their grips the way he told them to. They just stuck with the initial grip and they're like, oh, this is fine, whatever, because everybody's trying to rush. This is why when we tell you guys don't rush the process of being a student, absorb what you can, meditate at every level. It's really like to really maximize your efficiency as a martial artist. It is a very deep-seated process. Okay. You have to live it and you have to really just embrace it on every level. Not like Adam's telling you guys, don't just rush through the technique to get to the next one or rush through the technique so you can go roll, because you're missing out on all the key components, you know, especially if you have somebody generous enough and with the expertise to give you the why. If they're generous enough to explain that to you, you better fucking sit down and say thank you and ask follow-up questions. Take it seriously. Stop trying to rush to the next belt. Stop trying to rush to the next instructional video. Sit with somebody that'll guide you, truly guide you, and talk to you about this. You should be able to talk about grappling without rolling, so to speak. Like if Adam and I just wanted to have a conversation about grappling, we could have hours long conversation about grappling and talk about it on a very deep level without being on the mat together and going, well, I don't know what you mean about this. I don't mean what you mean about that. It's just like we can go through the whole thing. Very, very important. So don't rush your process.
That's 100% what it boils down to. Yeah, you can't rush these things. If you're trying to learn something, you have to put the time into learning it. You have to listen to the explanations. I guess it's like trying to put together a flat pack furniture thing. If you don't read the instructions and know where A goes into B and B goes into C and D to E, if you don't bother to do that, yeah, we've all seen the guys who throw out the instructions and say, I know what I'm doing, and put it together and it falls apart. Why? Because you've missed a whole bunch of little shit that you were supposed to do before you banged it together. And because when we rush, we usually fuck shit up. And it's the same thing with technique. It doesn't matter what it is. If I'm rushing through it going, yeah, I know how to do this. Okay, well, cool, you know how to do it, then why can't you do it? Why are you still doing it wrong? Maybe if you lost the ego a little bit, put yourself into a position where you had an inquiring mind, instead of going, I can't get this to work, my ego doesn't allow me to say, hey, this doesn't work for me. What am I doing wrong? It's got to be like, no, the technique's crap. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, and that's a prevalent attitude. It is a very prevalent attitude in grappling. Because there's always another technique. There's always somebody else that's trying to say you an instructional that says this technique will fix what the problem is. No, the only thing that will fix what the problem is learning to do shit correctly. That's what will fix the problem. Not the newest video, not the latest rush vest, with Kevlar implants that makes you faster. All that sort of weird shit that happens in a commercial industry like grappling. I don't worry about any of that. Go back, drill the technique, pull it apart, ask the instructor that showed it to you, what the fuck am I doing wrong that I can't make this work? If one person can make it work, you can make it work. Will it be exactly the same as the way they did it? Possibly not. But you won't know how to modify it if you've never learnt how to do it in the first place. If you bypass and go, oh, it's an armbar, I know how to do an armbar, and then you try doing it and you can't make it work, but the person next to you can, it's not the technique that's the problem because everybody else is making it work. You're the problem because you can't. Why can't you? Because you probably didn't freaking listen to the explanation, basically. Which then, this is where my coach hat goes back on, and I go, it becomes annoying because now I've got to come around to you and explain the whole freaking thing again that we wouldn't have to do if you just listened the first time I explained it. That's how I look at it, and I make sure when I'm a student, I am a student. I don't answer questions. At the seminar I just went to, the guys, one of the younger guys that we were training with, asked me a question. I said, I'm not the coach. I don't know. You have to ask Lewis. You have to ask Dan. I'm not the coach. I'm the same as you, mate. I'm just here to learn how to do this. I don't know it. Because I didn't. Yeah, I understand the concept of what he was doing, but I don't know the technique well enough. And so I called Lewis over to show us again. He said, I can't make it work. He's asked this question. I don't have the answer. What do we do? And Lewis came and showed and explained, and you listened to it. Then after that, we could all make it work. Not a problem. It worked great. It's because we listened to what he said. Yeah, and we listened the first time. I listened intently the first time. I got 3/4 of the way there. And to tell you the truth, I actually made the technique work the first time I did it. But the younger guy asked me because he couldn't. He was a young white belt, teenage kid, maybe 16, 15, 16. Asked me, and he's used to learning wrestling from me. So he's like, coach, this isn't working. I'm not the coach tonight. I can't tell you what's wrong. I can tell you how I made it work. But now we need to bring in the coach. Yeah, and as a student, you need to be able to put all the other stuff that you do, like if you're a coach and a black belt and a competitor and all that sort of stuff, you need to be able to put all of that to the side in order to ask questions. And that tends to be a problem for a lot of people. They don't want to put that ego aside to go, I just can't make it work, or well, I don't understand. I'm doing something wrong. Help. Nobody wants to do that. They don't want to look like the guy who can't make it work. Well, guess what? The guy who can't make it work at the end of the day is probably going to be far better at it than the guy who managed to fluke it a couple of times and go, I know it.
You're 100% spot on with that. Um, yeah, when we say enjoy beating a student, take it seriously. Respect the instructors and don't ask what's next. Ask for the thought process behind something. Ask for them to watch you. Ask for them to do it to you and make sure you are developing it right. You want eagle eyes on you at all times. I've made the joke before, even though I was very serious. Back in the day when I'd go to the Billy Robinson camps, because he was so loud and abrasive when you did something wrong, I would always hide in the back. I would always hide in the back of the wrestling room because I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get yelled at. And trust me, that man had, even at his age, he had eagle eyes and he would yell at me from across the room. I was like, damn, there's no place for me to hide. But that was my ego, right? I could have very well just been at the front of the room, closest to him, to let him be critical of me, criticize me, and tell me what I'm doing wrong so I could get it better faster. So I know for a fact, there were things that it took me longer to learn because I didn't want to be exposed for doing it wrong. So don't do what I did, children. Do the opposite of what I did. Fast
Do
track yourself by
do as we
asking.
say. Do as we say. Do as we say, not as we do.
Yeah, this is a situation where I, looking back, I can be reflective of, yeah, this is how I did it wrong. Don't, and here's the other thing, there's no such thing as being embarrassed for doing the technique incorrectly. Sit there, be a barnacle to the side of your instructor or whoever's teaching you, and let them show you the finer details. If you're making a mistake, have them walk you through it. Have them walk you through it again. Have them show it to you again. Don't be the guy that says, what's next? Because that's going to be your habit through your entire process. If you're always what's nexting everything, you're always going to sell yourself short. There is no way you can do a single leg 100 times or 1,000 times and then go, what's next? Because you already did it right. There's no way you can do an Uchimata 1,000 times and say, what's next? Because you already did it right. It's not real. That is your ego lying to you. You know, we talk about Jordan Burroughs all the time. You think he stopped doing double legs after the first 100 hours of double legs? Okay, I got this. I'm done. No, that guy's still doing double legs in his sleep. He probably double legs his wife on the way to the kitchen. There's so much to it. You can't stop learning, and everybody needs to slow down. We're in a society now, me and Adam talk about this offline all the time. We're in such a fast-paced society now with the internet and everything. Yes, you have access to information, but you guys are trying to gobble it up way too quickly. And you're all giving yourself brain freeze and stomach aches for trying to gobble up all this information way too fast. That's why we're here every week to slow you down and guide you through the process.
Yep. You need to commit to the idea of learning with enthusiasm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Not commit to the idea that learning equals failure. And I think a lot of people do that. If they have to ask again, if they require further information, explanation of nuance, body position, angle, where should I put pressure? I'm not getting it right. What's happening here? Anything that they ask a question about, they perceive it as a failure, as opposed to a real commitment to learning well. And I think that definition needs to be like really looked at by people in general. You know, like for me, if I need to ask questions on how to do something again and again and again, it's not because I'm failing at it. It's because I want to understand how to do it correctly. I want to understand it better. It's not that I'm doing it badly. I just want to understand it better. And even if I am doing it badly, well, I'm fucking doing it badly. I want to do it good. At the end of the day, I'm either doing it okay and I want to get it better, or I can't make it work. I'm doing it shit and I don't know how to do it. Somebody help. You know, if you're trying to learn something, you need to commit to the journey and be enthusiastic about the journey of learning. Otherwise, why bother?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's 100% correct. All right, I think we've said it all.
I think
Slow
so.
down your process. Continue to ask why. Sit and learn. Don't be embarrassed about making mistakes. And also at the same time, like we've already said, don't be the what if guy. Just ask why. Sit and ask why and educate yourself. This is a process. Doesn't matter what the style is. It could be Savat, it could be Muay Thai, it could be Dutch style, it could be Kyokushin, it could be Judo, it could be Sambo, it could be Jiu Jitsu, it could be catch wrestling. Everything has its nuances. The only way you're going to continue to develop yourself is by constantly asking why and slowing down and enjoy being the student. Okay. With that, guys, like, subscribe, and share. Share with 3 new people every week. We are building a massive international audience and we want to keep growing. All of our links, sponsor links, are in the description. So go down there, click the links, support our sponsors, please. We have a fourth wall. Get on there, click. If you have an idea for merchandise, shirts, hoodies, etc., hit us up, let us know, and make sure you guys send in questions for Technique Talk, okay? Don't worry about getting roasted. Adam wants to hear what you have to say.
I do.
And
Talk to
with,
me, guys.
yeah,
Talk to me.
talk to him. He's lonely. All he has is the kangaroos. And with that,
Exactly.
we are out of here.